Hello, and welcome to the Macbeth Engineering Lab. I'm Miss McEwen, and today we are going to be working on the Geodesic Dome Challenge. So let's begin by talking about what a geodesic dome is. You probably have seen one already, although you may not know you've seen one. So let me bring this up here. Have you ever seen something that looks like this? Maybe out on the playground, maybe you climbed around on it, swung from the bars. So this is actually a geodesic dome. This is a structure that's made entirely of triangles. And we're going to talk about why it's made entirely of triangles. But first, let's talk about the engineering process. So let's talk about the engineering design process. If you've watched these videos before, you may remember talking about this before, and I've compared it to a baby bird hatching. So first step here is to ask. This is like the creation of the nest. This is where we're going to come up with the structure that allows us to create our idea. So we're going to ask our questions like, what is it we're trying to create? In this case, our geodesic dome, but what is a geodesic dome? And then what materials can you use to make it? What are our limitations? What are we trying to use it for? All of these things are questions that would be important in this design process. Our next step here is to imagine. You can imagine what you could make. Come up with some kind of an idea. This is where the baby birds they're not hatched out yet, but the eggs are there. So the beginning of an idea. And so you can imagine the possibilities. The first man here in the United States to really imagine the possibilities about a geodesic dome was a man named Richard Buckminster Fuller, which I think is a fantastic name. He was not the first person to ever create a geodesic dome. There was actually a German architect before him that had done some work on it, but Mr. Fuller, Mr. R. Buckminster Fuller, as he was known, is the one who really took the idea and ran with it, came up with something that would work in a lot of different situations. He developed this idea of something built entirely out of triangles, something strong and stable and yet very lightweight. And that was his plan, which is the next step in our process, isn't it? The plan where the baby bird is now hatched. And so this is where you come up not just with your idea, but with a real strategy for constructing something. So he came up with his plan, and then, and I believe it was 1949, he finally created his geodesic dome. So today, we're going to create a geodesic dome. We're not going to do it exactly the same way as Mr. R. Buckminster Fuller, but we are going to make it out of toothpicks and marshmallows. And you can see that this structure is made entirely of triangles. You can see all of our triangles here and here. And I'm going to explain in a moment when we begin the create stage why we do that. But for now, I just want you to notice that it's all made out of triangles. On the top, on the sides. The only thing that's not a triangle is this pentagon on the bottom. So this, in considering that this is only toothpicks and marshmallows, this is really a pretty sturdy structure. It can stand up on its own. You could actually put some weight on it, and it stands up quite well. So we're going to talk about why that is in a moment, but this is what we're going to be making today. And for this, you're going to need 25 toothpicks and 11 marshmallows, and that's all that you will need to create this geodesic dome. Okay, so we're ready to start making our geodesic dome. To begin with, I've made a couple of structures here. A square, which is what everyone usually wants to start with in building a structure, and a triangle. And I want to show you the difference here in how the strength of these and the stability of them. Look at my square. If I'm holding it like this and I try to push down on it, look how it just bends and twists. It can swing from side to side. It's just not very stable. The triangle, on the other hand, you can see that's a whole other thing. Here I am pushing on it. I'm trying to shake it. It really has no wobble to it. It can carry quite a lot more load. It's just a much stronger structure. So we're going to use those structures to create our geodesic dome. This right here that we showed you earlier, we're going to start making this. So what do we have to make our geodesic dome? It's a bunch of toothpicks, 25 toothpicks to be exact. That's exactly the number that you need. And then we have 11 marshmallows. That's all you need to construct this, although if you want to add the cute little flag on top like I did, you can also use an extra toothpick and a pair of scissors and this sticky notes here to create one of those. You don't really need it, but it makes it look a little bit cute. So here, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to need is a pentagon. And do you remember how many sides a pentagon has? Penta means 5 and gon means shape, so 5-sided shape. And so we're going to make this 5 sides. So we need 5 toothpicks for this. And we're going to need marshmallows for all of our corners. So we just start connecting them together to make a pentagon. Okay. We have now used 5 marshmallows and 5 toothpicks. There are always the same number of corners in a polygon as sides. So we have 5 sides and we have 5 corners, which means we need 5 marshmallows. So we can count these to make sure we have it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have our pentagon. Okay, next step here is that we're going to start our triangles. So you see the triangles here coming up out of our pentagon on the bottom. We're going to put a triangle on each of these. So coming up from each of our marshmallow sets here, we're going to create a triangle all the way around. So triangles, we're going to end up with 5 triangles. So 2 toothpicks in each marshmallow. A marshmallow at the top to hold them together. When you're working, things may start getting a little bit lopsided like this, if you can see, but once we get all the structure together, it should come out fairly even. So don't worry about that too much while you're still building it. Okay, and last one. Okay, so now we're going to count and make sure we have all of our triangles. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triangles, and you can also count marshmallows at the top to make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have all of our triangles coming up out of our pentagon. What we need to do next is to create our downward facing triangles. As you can see here, we have the triangles that are coming up like these. We've already created those. We have ones going facing downward on this side, which we can do just simply by creating a crossbar across here. And so we're going to do that next on this one, just simply by joining all of our triangles along the top. So this is going to use another 5 toothpicks, and we're essentially creating another pentagon here. Okay, as you can see, this is a pretty solid structure considering it's only made of toothpicks and marshmallows, and it's pretty sturdy really. You can't shake it that much. It doesn't have a lot of wobble to it. It's really pretty strong. So what we're going to do is just simply finish it off by another set of triangles. You can see here on the top of this one, we just have another set of triangles coming out of the top to meet at one marshmallow on the top. So what we're going to do is simply put a toothpick in each marshmallow. And now we will connect them at the top with one crowning marshmallow holding all of the toothpicks together. And there's our geodesic dome. Now, if you wanted to make it fancy, you can add a little flag. I like to do that just for fun. You can take a sticky note, and I will cut it into another triangle. And if you want to, you can do, I like to give it a little bit of a curl by doing it this way. And then this way. And we can wrap it around. And now we have a little flag. Oops. If I can get it to stay, we have a little flag. There we go. It's all finished. And you can see the strength of it here. Even though this is only toothpicks and marshmallows, look at how strong this structure is. It would be rather difficult to crush. You could put a fair amount of weight on this and it wouldn't collapse. So this is a really incredibly strong structure, all composed of these triangles fitted together in a pentagon pattern. Okay, so we have worked through our ask stage. We asked the questions, what materials are we going to use? In our case, we used toothpicks and marshmallows. We imagined what kind of structure we could make with these toothpicks and marshmallows that would be a geodesic dome. We made our plan and we created a geodesic dome. Now let's go to the our last step here, which is to improve. We could think about how we could improve this. What's one way you think we could improve this? I can think of several possibilities. One is to make a bigger geodesic dome. Do you think you could? Let me think about this one that we looked at earlier. This one's much bigger than a pentagon on the bottom. This is not a pentagon. This has more sides, and yet you can see still the same structure. So you can make a larger geodesic dome. Can you imagine how you could do that? You could make a taller geodesic dome maybe. And also you can use different materials to make your geodesic dome. We use toothpicks and marshmallows, but what else could you use? Maybe you could use straws, pipe cleaners. You could use pieces of wood or metal. You could make it a lot stronger, and yet we don't want to make it heavy. The goal with geodesic domes is always to keep them as light as possible and yet as strong as possible. So use your imagination and think what you could do next time to make a bigger and even better geodesic dome. So thank you for joining me on the Geodesic Dome Challenge. How did your geodesic dome turn out? Can you think of ways to improve it for next time? I would love to hear. But for now, goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.